This is Between the Lines. Today, we dissect the road less traveled.
Hello, again with The Road Less Traveled, chapter 23, called The Work of Attention. Because for everything we need to do in order for it to be considered an act of love, it requires courage and work. Because we need to work against our inertia or our mind's inertia, right? Because our brains tend to be just dull and do nothing, and we need to focus and pay attention to the other persons, and that is love. And something curious that the doctor mentions here is that, for example, at school we are not taught how to listen. We are mostly taught a lot how to read, a little bit less about how to speak, and sometimes in some schools it is not even a subject. And to be able to listen is something that we almost never are taught how to do. And that is how it is even harder than it actually is, because we have to put the effort, and if we don't know how to really listen and what are the levels of listening and those kind of things, we will never be great at it. I mean, not from our school teachings, right? So, for example, when you have to listen to a child, just the average case, and then we will extend it to other cases or other adults. When you have to listen to a child, you can do it from 5 points of view. So you can do, for example, and actually the doctor mentions here, believe it or not, in many houses, children are not allowed to express themselves. They are not allowed to talk. So they are in a corner all the time, listening to everyone else, but not being able to speak or express themselves. And that is one of the aspects. And then the other one, or the other role you can be, is like, okay, you let the children talk, but you don't really listen. So they are just talking in the background, like a noise. And the other one, third one, could be pretending to listen, and sometimes nodding or saying yes, but actually not listening to the child. The fourth one is selective listening, which is a tip sometimes, but many parents listening, pretending to listen to their children, and sometimes picking something that could be of interest, and only engaging in the conversation with that particular topic that they are expressing. And the fifth one is truly listening actively, which is called sometimes actively listening, truly listening, and really putting the effort into understanding what the other, in this case the children, is saying. And guess which one of these 5 roles is the one that takes more effort? Yes, the fifth one, because it really needs your attention and your will to listen, and your full focus on what the child is saying. And so you may be asking, as I was while rereading the book, should we listen all the time and pay attention to everything, in this case a child is saying, all the time, paying super close and conscious attention to everything that they say? And the answer is, of course, not. And that is due to 3 reasons. Because, first of all, children, especially at this age that we are mentioning, 6-year-old, they tend to talk a lot about a lot of things, and sometimes they are inconsistent, and they talk about different things, and they are kind of a mess. And if you are paying full attention to the children, you cannot do the things that you need to do at home, for example. If you were to listen to them, every single thing that they say, and really paying attention, it could be exhausting also for you. And the other reason is that because it will be super, super boring. Because again, children tend to go through different topics and they speak about things, about children things, right? And sometimes it's not really interesting. So, as anything we are talking about throughout the book, it requires discipline, and discipline requires balance. So, in this case, as a parent, you need to adjust and understand, or have some time with them in order to fully pay attention. And in other cases, you will just not listen, or depending on, or sometimes you will have to shut up your children because they are just making noise, and or because it's not the right time, and those kind of things. So again, if we are willing to put the effort into truly listening, this is what the doctor calls an upward cycle of evolution and growth in the relationship with your children, or it could be with your partner. Because when you listen to the other person, you are paying attention, you are demonstrating, or you're showing them appreciation, you're making them feel esteemed and valued, because you are fully listening, setting aside. Remember, we talked about this word bracketing. So we are setting aside all our prejudice or our own ideas and things, just to be present for the person and listening to what they have to say. And in return, what we will get is this building of a relationship, healthy one. And also the other person will be more willing to listen to us when it's our turn, and those kind of things, due to reciprocity, right? And this cycle is a virtuous one, because it's by valuing the other, we are creating more and more value. And for example, in the case of our children, but it could also be applied to a partner, we are also teaching them some lessons in how we, what I generally call, and I think I have in several other episodes apart from this book, called this building the vocabulary, or build the relationship and also the vocabulary with your partner and with your children. And you are like building like a common ground on which you are building your relationship, right? And by teaching them, you are also allowing them to teach their wisdom. And even though sometimes we think that children don't have wisdom because they are babies, they actually have. There is a saying here in Argentina, and there is drunkards and children always say the truth. And yes, there's some part of truth coming from a child, or even from another person. So you will always be learning also. And if you are here, it's because you want to build a loving relationship, and this love is built upon trust and willingness and paying attention again. And so you are valuing the other person, learning from them, teaching them, and it's a two-way relationship, right? So let's talk a little bit more about true listening. And this chapter is quite extensive, but I will highlight some things that I have taken out from this chapter. So true listening is the most important, according to the doctor and according to my experience too, the most important thing for love and for building a good relationship. Because it requires total concentration, again, as we said, and it is always a manifestation of love, paying attention, putting the effort and your time into listening to other people. It could be a person, a partner, child, whoever that is. And when we have a conversation, we have these two roles, the speaker and the listener, again, the receiver and the giver, and it's interchangeable. So it becomes, I really like the phrase the doctor uses here, which is it becomes like a duet dance of love, because you are talking sometimes, the other is talking, and with this, if you really and truly listen and you put the effort into it, you can do it from a place of empathy and also build a safe place where the other and you yourself can be both vulnerable and talk and really have deep conversations. Actually, the doctor doesn't mention that here, but it is my experience that when you are providing this safe space for the others to be open enough, you start to get or deepen your conversation, and not only your conversation, but doing that regularly, you're also creating more healthy and established relationship. And what is that we do in most of our conversations, especially if we are talking about business, right? We go with a goal in mind. We go with, we start the conversation trying to achieve something with a certain intention, and we go with predisposed to listen selectively and try to get the conversation into the way you want that to go. And even though you think the other person is not fully understanding, and sometimes they aren't because they're not paying attention, but if they are paying enough attention, it is super, super obvious for the other person that you are trying to disguise some things, or you're trying to take the conversation to a certain goal and that kind of thing. So, and I'm not saying that is bad in itself, because sometimes certain conversation, business or otherwise, have to be on a certain subject, but in general that gets up the barriers between the people, right? Because if I notice that you're trying to get something from me, maybe I will put a barrier there. The doctor mentions here an experience he had when he went to a conference. He was interested in the topic of religions, as he mentions here, spiritual growth, those kind of things. And it was philosophy and religion, something like that. He went to a conference, and the person that was giving the conference was a very renowned person. He didn't mention who he was or she was here, but he said that it was 3 hours of length. He really tried to put from his part, he put the effort into listening, into trying to understand abstract concepts that the person was mentioning, and he took notes and he tried to engage in the conversation by trying to really and deeply understand and listen to what the person was saying. And he was exhausted after the conference ended. And during a break, a coffee break in this seminar conference, he started talking with the other participants and the other attendants. And the other ones were saying, oh, this person was, the speaker was really bad. We didn't understand a thing. He didn't make himself clear. Those kind of things. People were saying that he was not good. So the doctor reflected and said to himself, or at least in the book, he said that for him, going to see a specific person that had so much knowledge and was a renowned person in the matter, he said, he will surely have something to teach me because I'm the student and he's the professor in this case. And I put the effort into really trying to understand. However, the other people apparently didn't pay that much attention, or weren't really interested, or were more passive in their trying to understand what the speaker was saying. So this perception, even though here it's like a controversial topic, because every time we talk or we speak in front of an audience, yes, we are responsible for the way we try to express and try to get through the message into people. But sometimes this happens, for example, at schools, right? And we say, no, the teacher wasn't good enough for me because I didn't understand. But sometimes it's just that I was lazy and didn't try to really understand what they were saying, right? I didn't put the effort, and I just wanted them to insert into me this knowledge. So he mentions this experience here because he says most of the time this happens when people come to therapy. Couples come to therapy, and we teach them how to listen to each other. And people think that, he says, people are generally horrified because we tell them you have to make an appointment, like an appointment in order to talk to your partner, because real listening, real deep talk can be made in a context while you're cooking, or you're driving, or you're doing the homework with your child. You have to set aside some time in order to have a good conversation. And this reminds me also about how, well, nowadays, at this time when the book was written, there were no cell phones, right? And if you want to have a proper and good conversation with somebody else, you can't be all the time on the phone, because you are not paying attention to the other person, right? So that's something that I already have talked about in another episode if you want to check. But so many times the couples think that this is unromantic and spontaneous, and yes, it's because it takes effort. And the doctor mentions here, romantic love is effortless, right? It's something that you just do because it's easy. But if you really want to build a relationship, you have to undergo through this conscious effort in order to build the relationship. Well, listening sometimes is of course hard. Sometimes we are tired, and many things can happen. Sometimes our mind wanders, and we miss some part of the conversation. There's nothing wrong in saying, "Hey, sorry, I just thought about another thing, and I completely lost track of what you were saying. Please tell me, can you repeat the last words or last sentences?" That kind of thing. And he mentions, I learned this from a coach, a mentor of mine that I have had like 10 years ago or so. But in the book, he mentions this, and that it's like another reaffirmation of what I have been told, that there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I lost track of what you were saying. Could you please repeat me the sentence?" Because many times we think that the other person will be mad at us for not listening, but that this actually that happens to all of us, right? And so yes, I think that is important also to highlight from this chapter. And finally, the doctor also mentions other ways of paying attention that are not only listening or only truly listening, but also it can be through family activities, in the case with children or couples too. It could be game playing with your child, or with other people. I've seen this work really good when training people, for example. It's not the same just training them with theory, but also complemented it with some kind of games, and really becomes more engaging with adults too. So it applies to any age, I could say. And in this case, when you are playing or you are having a gathering, or we could say an activity with your couple, with your family, you can observe them and you can understand them in another context maybe, and also you can understand how they react or act in certain spaces, in certain places, under other circumstances. And that is also important for knowing other aspects of your partner, your child, whoever it is we are talking about here. And so I think that is it. I try to highlight only the things that I really found super interesting. Again, if you can get the book, do it, read this chapter, and we see you next Sunday. And I would like, before you go, I would like to know if you think you are a balanced listener. We could say, again, you can't be truly listening to everything that you go through in your day because it's exhausting. But in the right moments, and this is just for you, you can comment if you want in the comment section, but especially for you, this question is, are you really listening? And when you are listening to other person, in which of the 5 roles that we mentioned before you can identify you are mostly in? And that will give you a tool in order to observe yourself and be able to get a better understanding of yourself first, as we say, and also how balanced you are being in your conversations, for example, especially in the most important ones with your partner in this case, or with your children, because we're talking about love, right? So I hope that's useful for you, and see you next Sunday. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Uluwa's next episode.